be able to download it.
All right. Yep. There's the red dot. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our virtual movie discussion. Today, we are going to be discussing the 1992 film A League of Their Own. I am one of your hosts. I am Karen Wisely. I teach history at the Northeast campus, and I am joined by several of my colleagues today. You want to introduce yourselves? Here you go.
I thought the wave was sufficient.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Chloe, Dr. Chloe Northrup, and I am at the Connect campus.
Hi, I'm Samantha Elkins, and I am at Northeast campus, also teach history.
I am Sarah Reed. I'm at the Northeast campus as well, also in the history department.
And Haley's here. I don't know if she wants to put her camera on, but she's here.
There she is.
All right. So our custom when doing one of these events is to start with an introduction. That's where I read the log line or brief description of the movie and then go over some of the main cast members where you may have seen them before. So the log line for League of Their Own. As America's stock of athletic young men is depleted during World War II, a professional all-female baseball league springs up in the Midwest, funded by publicity-hungry candy maker Walter Harvey. Competitive sisters Dottie Hinson and Kit Keller spar with each other. Scout Ernie Capadino and grumpy has-been coach Jimmy Dugan on their way to fame. It stars Tom Hanks as Jimmy Dugan. And I feel like we've had this discussion real recently here about where we've seen Tom Hanks. And if you don't know Tom Hanks, you really need to start watching more movies in your life. We did Saving Private Ryan just a few months ago. So that's a good place to start for him. Recently, he made a movie called A Man Called Otto that was very good and will make you cry. And I'm required by my colleagues to mention the Toy Story movies where he is Woody. But this just scratches the surface. Go watch some of his movies. Gina Davis as Dottie Hinson, who was the catcher. And she also is rather iconic. She was in 1991's Thelma and Louise, a timeless classic, and 1996's A Long Kiss Goodnight, which was also amazing. But you youngs may know her from being Mrs. Little in the Stuart Little films. Oh, and also Beetlejuice, because there is Beetlejuice 2, so you might have revisited Beetlejuice, the original from 1988, and she was very prominent in that.
Although she's not going to be in the new one.
She isn't in the new one, no.
So, yeah.
But if, like me, when a new movie comes out, you go and watch the old one, you might meet Gina Davis, yes. Lori Petty as Kit Keller, who's the pitcher. She is probably best known for 1995's Tank Girl. And she also was in Orange is the New Black. So, yeah. Rosie O'Donnell as Doris Murphy, who is the third baseman. Probably her best known movie other than this one is 1993's Sleepless in Seattle, also starring Tom Hanks. But what I think a lot of young people may not realize about her is that she was well known as a stand-up comic in the 1980s, and then she hosted her own daytime talk show in the 1990s. So she has a whole other life, and she is hilarious. So again, watch some stuff. I'm encouraging the students to watch more TV, not less, more TV. Madonna as May Mortabito, the center fielder. I legitimately don't know what to say to you if you don't know who Madonna is. She is the pop icon of the 1980s and 1990s, and then she probably should have stopped, right? We have had this discussion that, you know, after when did her music die, Haley?
1998.
Yes. Everything she's done since 1998 is a little cringe. but until 1998, she was the best. She also tried to do some acting, and she wasn't that great at that, though, let's say. In 1995's Desperately Seeking Susan, she was okay because she played kind of herself. She was in 1990's Dick Tracy, and 1996's Evita, which probably should have gone to someone else.
I loved her as Evita, so no, I grew up on that though, and I think she did excellent. I mean, Patti LuPone was amazing on stage, but I don't know, it has a place in my heart.
Anyway, she has great music pre-1998. Go out and listen to some. Megan Cavanaugh as Marla Hooch, the second baseman. She was in a couple of Mel Brooks's satirical movies, Robin Hood Men in Tights and Dracula, Dead and Loving It. But I remember her as the animal control officer on an episode of Friends who tries to capture Marcel, the monkey. Am I the only one that remembers that episode? Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No, I totally remember that. The moment you say that now, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah, that was her.
I think I've blocked those Marcel episodes from my mind.
It's just that whenever I see someone, I'm like, oh, Marla Hooch, you know? All right. Tracy Reiner as Betty Horn, left fielder, pitcher, Betty Spaghetti. And she has only really played in bit parts other than this one. And she probably got this role. I don't want to make assumptions, but she was the daughter of the director, Penny Marshall. So that might be part of the reason why she got such a big role in this film. Anyway, Biddy Schramm as Evelyn Gardner, right field. She's probably best known for her role as Sharona Fleming, personal assistant to Monk in the series Monk. Anne Ramsey as Helen Haley, the first baseman. She was in Mad About You. Right? She was the friend Lisa, I think. Or was it the sister? Was it sister? His sister? I don't remember. Anyway. David Strahan as Ira Lowenstein. He's been in a lot of good things. One of my favorites is 1992's Sneakers. We will also see him later this semester in 8 Men Out. He was also newsman Edward R. Murrow in 2005's Good Night and Good Luck, and Secretary of State William Seward in 2012's Lincoln. Gary Marshall as Walter Harvey. Gary Marshall was a TV legend. He created Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, among others. He was also a great director of Pretty Woman, Beaches, Runaway Bride, among others. And he is the brother of the director, Penny Marshall. John Lovitz as Ernie Capadino. He started out on Saturday Night Live in the 1990s. Funny dude, been in a lot of Adam Sandler movies, so that's where
I do remember
him.
his Friends episode.
Yeah.
Do you? Okay.
There were 2 of them, actually.
There were 2? I only remember the one.
He came back later.
Oh, huh. I don't remember that one.
I read last night. Bill Pullman as Bob Henson. He was the president in 1996's Independence Day. He was the Han Solo guy called Lone Star in 1987's Spaceballs, and he's just really good. And finally, last but not least, David L. Lander as the radio sportscaster.
Bill Pullman and Tom Hanks also starred together in Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah,
But
he was the
never had a
boring.
scene
He was
together,
the
but I
boring
did
fiance
wanna mention
that Meg Ryan left.
another marital tension with Bill Pullman and Tom Hanks in Sleepless in Seattle and in A League of Their Own, if we will. We could explore that later, though, this conversation.
All right, David L. Lander is the radio sportscaster. He was Squiggy of Lenny and Squiggy in the Laverne and Shirley show, which I'm reasonably sure no one else gets this reference because that show ran from 1976 to 1983, which is before most of you were born. So I don't care. he deserves respect, and I just put respect on his name. A League of Their Own was released in the United States on July 1st, 1992. It was directed by Penny Marshall, who was Laverne in Laverne and Shirley. And in 2012, the Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as, quote, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Its runtime is 2 hours and 8 minutes. So, how much did we love it? Is that a leading question? Yes, it is. But how much did we love it?
I loved it. Of course. It's like the ultimate friendship movie. It's great.
Yeah. And sisters. I
And
mean,
sisters. Yeah, all of that.
Yes.
All that good stuff.
I had not seen it in years. I mean, I think the last time I saw it I was maybe a teenager, and I actually got more of like the inappropriate jokes, like when Tom Hanks signs the ball and says, "Don't get the clap." I don't remember that when I was a child, and I thought, oh, was that in the version I watched as a child? Yeah, probably.
Yes,
I
it was.
didn't get it. So, as a few things about seeing it again as an adult, it hit me very differently than when I saw it as a child. And I love this, Karen, that what we've been doing, rewatching these movies that maybe we've seen before, like Schindler's List or Casablanca, or these other movies that we might have seen at other points. But I think movies hit us at different places in our life. I don't know if anyone else maybe saw this as a young person and sees it again as an adult, or maybe some students in here maybe sees it as a child and now seeing it as a college student. They hit us in different ways, how we're experiencing life helps shape and inform the way we're viewing these movies. I was wondering if anyone else had that experience watching that.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, it came out in 92. I was 12. So I'm trying to remember, like, what did I think when I just thought it was funny. I just thought these women were funny. So I didn't necessarily get the friendship and the sisterhood and all of those things that watching it later on you pick up on. Like, those are important relationships that you have in your life. You're not going to get that as a 12 or 13-year-old. So yeah, I definitely see your point.
Yeah. And I think that I cried harder this year when I watched it about when Stillwell said his mom was gone. That just ripped me to pieces, you know? And in past watchings, it didn't as much. I mean, it did. It would make me tear up, but it wouldn't make me just like heaving sobs like it did this year. So I think it's just being in a different place. So, yeah. Well, you said, Samantha, that you hadn't seen the beginning of it. So you missed the whole John Lovitz part there with the, or you mean before that? You start with John Lovitz, you don't see where she's not wanting to leave her room?
I mostly hadn't seen, I knew it flashed forward at the end. Like, I knew that. Like, I knew those scenes. And I knew that, like, not everyone was alive anymore. Spoilers if you haven't picked up on that in this conversation. Hopefully everyone has. But, like, it's also a fast forward, you know, like, a long time. So you kind of expect that. And so, like, I obviously knew that, but I had forgotten, like, I didn't know that there was it started like that, and then she imagines it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And I know that I think I saw something, and I'm like, when you talk about it like being a cultural phenomenon and everything like that, it's such a thing that I think I only watched this movie when it came on TV. And as we've probably had in past discussions, you know, my dad likes to change the channel when there was a commercial growing up and we had to watch commercials. So I'm sure I missed scenes just constantly, little places. And so it was like watching it, I was like, I feel like I have seen this stuff with like Marla, but not necessarily all the John. So I was like, man, I have missed some of this beginning. And it was such a treat because I was really shocked watching the very, very beginning, because like literally starting at the beginning, it is women talking to women. It's not her talking to her son, it's her talking to her daughter. And yes, she has grandsons right there. But in 1992, I was struck by how much this movie like doesn't just pass the Bechdel test, it blows it away. And that is like, it was so refreshing to watch as a film. Like there was this very much the sisterhood, and I was just like, wow, this was made in 1992. And not only that, sometimes those movies that are like all women cast, then like you never see any conversations between men. But you did see that, and you did get to see how the men held a lot of the power, deciding like, is the league going to continue on and everything. So it wasn't like they completely erased men from the equation. It was just such a nice and refreshing contrast of predominantly women speaking to women and seeing their control and lack of control on certain issues and stuff, and just how, I don't know. I really, really just, I was like, this hits in a different way. Like I said, like you guys were saying, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, do we want to explain what the Bechdel test is?
Oh.
And also explain the problem with the
Bechdel
Bechdel test.
Answer that question, and so I wanted to jump in there before she pegged me down.
The Bechdel test is all well and good, but there are problems with it. Like serious problems with it. But yeah, if someone else wants to explain it, I'll just gripe about it. I'll take that role.
Well, I don't think the Bechdel test was even like something that Alison Bechdel really even imagined that would happen, but she is the one that is noted as the person who began it, and Alison Bechdel is a animationist, right? She does animationist. She's a cartoonist, I guess, is a more accurate thing. She did a cartoon for a number of years called Dykes to Watch Out For, and it was about women. It was about LGBT women, and it was predominantly women. And somewhere along the line, they noted that most movies don't have enough women where if two women are having a conversation, that they are not talking about men in that conversation. So we've done like we just did Saving Private Ryan, and there weren't any women in that movie really. So, whew, yeah. So that one did not pass at all. And so there was, there are movies like that.
As much as we love Casablanca would not have passed either.
No. Yeah, no. Yeah.
And we can still love a movie, and it's but it's just
and it really is. Yeah, and it's not really saying anything about the movies that don't pass. What it's saying is that there should be movies where there are women talking to each other about something other than men. And I think that that's what she expected the Bechdel test to be. Not, oh, look at how terrible this movie is. There's no women talking to each other in it. But rather, look how many movies there are that don't even have two women talking to each other in it. And maybe we should, target women more in whatever we are greenlighting projects, so that they can have women in them and talking to each other.
This is anachronistic to talk. When's the Bechdel test, Dr. Wisely? Because I feel like it's almost anachronistic to say this about this movie, because this predates, and yet it does pass.
It does.
Right.
Yeah, it does predate the Bechdel test. It does, and but it's an illustration of the kind of movies that the Bechdel test is trying to encourage to happen. Movies that are focused more around women and allow women to have lives outside of the men.
Well, and what's so nice about it is I would never look at this movie and go like, it's a girl movie though. It's not for boys. Like when I told my students, oh, we're doing A League of Their Own, half of them went, oh yeah, my dad quotes that all the time. There's no crying in baseball. Like, because I know one of my students said their dad coaches them and says that.
Yeah. This is one of my dad's favorite movies of all time. He loved baseball movies, but he loved League of Their Own. And like I think I told you all this summer that I said something about there's no crying in baseball, and my husband for years has thought that I came up with that line. And finally, I was like, "No, it's from a movie called League of Their Own," and he was like, "I've never heard of that movie," and I was like, "What? How have I failed you?" Because and for years, but I've said there's no crying, and then when the Rangers won the World Series last year and I cried, I said, like, I guess it's not true that there is crying. And he thought for years that I had made that line up. And I was like, no, that is Tom Hanks for that. Because, and then this summer at the All-Star game, they had a display about women in baseball and had the it's very similar ensemble from what we saw the Rockford Peaches wearing, and it was just fun. And I think that's when the whole thing finally came out that my husband did not realize that this was a movie, and this is what. But yes, it was one of my dad's favorite movies ever, and I remember watching it like with my dad and my sister. And so like watching it again now, years later that my father has passed, it definitely, like I said, hit me differently now. Remembering watching it with him as a child, but now like watching it as an adult, yes. And I picked up on something watching it this time that I did not notice before in the opening scene, and that is between Dottie and her grandsons, and both of them are playing basketball, and she tells the older one, let the younger one score sometimes. And I was like, oh, is that? What do we think about that? Okay, just we'll tuck that away though for now, because I know that this is a conversation that hopefully we'll be having today. But when I heard her say that this time, I was like, okay, so I won't spoil anything, but I definitely want us to tuck that away and think about it.
Okay, we're gonna have a whole conversation about the ending. Don't believe me. That's for sure coming up, because there are thoughts. We have thoughts. Yes, we do. But before we get there, they were playing softball in Oregon. They weren't playing baseball in Oregon. They were underhanded pitchers, and that was. I think it was interesting, an interesting choice. I think it also is like, it doesn't necessarily, the skill set does not necessarily translate to being a pitcher overhand versus being a pitcher underhand. And so, maybe we should respect Kit a little bit more, because she's obviously doing some good work if she was the pitcher for the softball and for the baseball, right? I mean,
sounds like a younger sibling chatting right now. Is it? No, that's okay. Just say it.
I never felt that with my older siblings. None of them played anything, so it was not, I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely something that, she definitely feels some kind of way about her sister always succeeding. And I love that whole spiel about this is our daughter Dottie, and this is our other daughter, Dottie's sister.
I don't think Dottie felt that way about Kit. Some of that was self-imposed by Kit.
Yeah, it was 100%. Like, I don't even know if their parents actually treated them that way. It was just what she was feeling. And yeah,
I think this is one of the things I always noticed is I think Dottie recognized that about Kit, but Kit had to get there herself. Right? Like,
and that's why she agreed to go, is because she knew that if she got on the train, that Kit would be able to make it, because she believed in Kit. But John Lovitz was not going to let her on the train unless Dottie went. So that's, that's big sister taking care of her, I think. And then, and even in the clubhouse, she's trying to take care of her, trying to help her as the catcher and everything like that. And then,
It
And
feels
then,
like a
you
very
know, whenever,
motherly relationship, doesn't
yeah,
it?
well, yeah, well, big sisters are like that. I mean, in
Well,
my
you don't
experience,
really. Her parents seem, well, in the beginning scenes, the parents are kind of checked out
yeah,
in a way
yeah, they
for
weren't at the
whatever reason, because
games.
it's
They weren't,
obviously
you know,
a
yeah,
period where things are happening. So there may be reason to it, but they're kind of like not heavily focused on their daughters and what they're doing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, except for they had chores to do when they came home. So,
Mhm.
um, as you do, right? As you do. Um, Jon Lovitz is hilarious. His one-liners are
He doesn't know what to do with Dottie when she's milking the cow while he's trying to convince her to go.
it's and get to Mama. Father. Oh no, that's right. I died. It's just the two of them, so he didn't know how to tell her to make up and figure, and so there's that whole thing. And I'm sorry, not, I don't think she's terrible, but they acted like she's a girl. Talking, it didn't happen.
It's only
What?
it's freezing.
Oh, is it my internet that's freezing? Probably. Sorry. All right. Well, questions, comments, concerns, anything? The end. Do you want to jump to the end? Because we have, in my family, we have had a long-standing argument about the ending of that World Series game. I would also like to jump just a little bit forward of that and talk about the fact that I was just going to leave when the only thing left was the World Series. I mean, what? I could see if it was like, oh, we have a month left to play, and then the playoffs. But if all you're going to do is go to the World Series, then how do you not stay? How do you not stay and play that with your team that you've worked really hard to get there with? Anybody?
Karen,
Am I
it keeps
cutting out?
cutting out, so we can't fully hear. So I'm assuming
Well,
you're asking why Dottie leaves.
Yes, I am asking why
Okay.
Dottie leaves.
There you go. I think it finally
it's
caught up.
I think Betty Spaghetti's husband dying right before that really shook her as a character, and that's what I think made her just want to like disconnect and be with her husband. Maybe that's what I was kind of wondering.
Because
myself.
it doesn't mean as much to her.
And she keeps saying that, and like it does mean something to her, but she wants it not to because she wants to make sure that like everything else in her life will be okay too. And that's why she lets Kit. That's why she lets go of the ball to prove this. She lets go of the ball.
But even it doesn't mean as much to her. What about her teammates?
Yeah.
She lets them all down in the end so Kit can be okay.
Well, she didn't even touch the plate, does she?
No, she doesn't.
I mean, that's a second issue. Not just the ball, but
She's still out because Kit never
cutting out.
Okay, can you guys hear me? I want to make sure that it's not my thing. Okay. Well, I was looking up stuff and they were saying that they actually originally filmed a scene to say whether or not she did it on purpose or accident or whatever. And then they purposely cut that out of the film to leave it purposely ambiguous so that they could focus instead on their like healing relationship rather than the baseball aspect. So weirdly enough, it didn't. Last time I watched this, I was mad. I was like, did she let go or not? I don't know. And I was like super mad. But this time watching it, it was just like, oh, that wasn't the point. I don't know. That was just me.
Whether or not it was the point, she let go of that ball. So her sister and her could be okay for the rest of their lives. She knew. She knew. I don't know. Is there any older sisters in here? Have you watched Encanto? Did you cry during Surface Pressure? Okay. If you did, chat with me and we'll chat. She let go of the ball.
Karen's frozen. Maybe she can reboot. We went really fast by Betty Spaghetti. Okay. And she was the daughter of Penny Marshall, but I wanted to give her a little credit for that scene because even when I was younger watching it, I felt that. Right, where she gets the letter. It's a very intense scene and it reminds you of the reality, right, outside of this fun game that they're doing to pass the time in the Warriors, and how in a way it's a coping mechanism for some of them, because there is this legitimate fear. And so she nails that scene and it really, really
I found myself getting
speaks.
very choked up this time watching it. And I think like Tom Hanks did really well, and it showed his kind of character redemption arc that he was not going to let these women all wonder who it's going to be. Why this jerk who comes in and can't get his life together. And it showed that he cared about these women enough to be like, no, we're going to find out who this is. Nobody's going to keep suffering. And so it was like a thing for all of them. But you saw each one of them had someone out there they could have lost that they were afraid about. And like seeing that tension on all of their faces showed how real it was. And like you said, Haley, like World War II is like a character in this movie, but like a side, and it like brought it in for a minute in a way that was very powerful. And I think even as a kid, when you're watching, you don't know that much about like war or anything, you could tell that somebody in there was losing someone they loved. And that was sad, and that was going to change their life. And when it kind of goes through, and is it Gina Davis or is it Dottie or is it Betty Spaghetti? Which one? And then it's Betty. I think like all the people just like coming to her and comforting because it could have been them. And I think that was a beautiful moment for the women and for her as a character. Yes. And
the one thing I noticed as an adult was Tom Hanks, right, had served too. So you get his alcoholism as an adult, right? Like you get that his addiction is silencing his own like wartime demons. Like that's kind of where I wouldn't have noticed that part when I was younger. Like made connections between like why he was there to begin with, why he's this out, because it's that moment where it shifts, right? Where he's found a different purpose to his character.
Yes, because I think someone asked, like, why aren't you serving? He's like, I don't have any cartilage. I mean, you see him kind of limping, and you're like, okay. And so a lot of people would then wonder, like, you know, there was a lot of maybe prejudice against those who were not serving at the time. You know, why aren't you serving with all of our brave men? And then he's like doing his part in this way, and he didn't find any fulfillment. And yet you see as the movie goes on, he finds more and more fulfillment thanks to these women, thanks to this like purpose that he has.
Well, and I think that's why she left, is it was supposed to bring that back, that like she was looking at the bigger picture for a moment, but then also like so much of this movie is so interesting because it's about like being part of a team, but also giving agency to these women as individuals. and like self-actualization kind of thing, because like she leaves, but then she makes the choice to come back. And it's nice because I appreciated that her husband actually was like, that's my girl at one point. Like I was like, thank you, because I was kind of worried you were pushing her to leave, but we couldn't really tell. Or was that her or what? You know, like it gave her the sense of like she chose at the end of the day, like this is what my place to be, at least for the end of the season, to be a part of this team that is supposed to be on some level basically cheering up people from World War II.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it still bothers me that she thought about leaving at all, but
yeah, but they do clarify that, right? Because it seems like, you know, like he might have influence there, but it really is her.
It is her, which is I think that like we needed to see that, because once again at the end of the day it's about these women specifically, and I just really enjoy that focus.
There's a lot of interesting background stuff too, right? You know, they bring them in and they have to make them pretty, right? Where they send them through finishing school, essentially.
The finishing school, apparently that was really realistic, because
Yeah,
they
no,
interviewed
I
a
mean,
bunch of people.
Yes, I
makes-
looked it up. I researched it because I was like, surely not. Surely yes.
because they're still very rigid, right? Gender expectations, women's roles. So women are meant to be. I mean, think about the era right after the war, right? Where your ads are very like women in dresses and heels while they vacuum their home. I mean, it very much plays into this era of feminine domesticity, and they're doing something that is very considered masculine,
I
like
don't know.
playing
I
a
loved
sport.
the radio when it started. The like first thing, like, look at our women, and now they've taken on a new masculine pursuit, the ball game. Like, I don't know. I absolutely love those reels because that is so realistic of this time period. Like, oh, the horror, and the fact that they made them wear those dresses to play.
The strawberries when they slide, horrifically
Oh,
painful.
oh, it hurt just seeing it.
And Marla, Karen brought up Marla Hooch, right? And how she does not fit this feminine role, right? She's been raised by her father. He has not taught her how to wear makeup and how to do her hair. But Dottie says we're not leaving here without her
Yeah.
because she's good at baseball. And just that character arc too.
Well, and I love that the fact that like you have, when you're looking at the character arcs, like yeah, Dottie's married, has a husband, but her romance doesn't play a role in her character really. Like it's a connection for her, but it's almost like a way that she can kind of run away from, is this where I'm meant to be or not, and everything. Whereas like Marla gets the wedding and gets the like so-called fairy tale ending like that.
Literally leaves in the middle of the season.
Yeah,
and, like,
that bothered
she's the
me
best one on the team, and she's like, well, I'll see you guys next season, you know? That kind of made me smile that Marla ended up being the one that's like, well, I'm going to get married.
And when they first meet Marla,
retired.
when they first meet her, it's kind of, I mean, I remember it being kind of emotional for me. I played softball, okay? That's what got this in. Me and my cousin would watch this all the time because there were so few shows of women playing sports like that, right? But this idea of how Marla is perceived, even as a kid, like growing up, and how people treated Marla. Her dad crying because he doesn't think there's a place for her in this world other than this skill that he's taught her because he failed her in some way. You know, it's a very kind of emotional scene. I mean, I hate that she just gets married and runs off, but because she deserves, she's a big, more full, developed person.
And I think that was trying to point out that there was a place for her in this world, even though, like, that's the thing is, it's weirdly cautiously optimistic, despite it pointing out a lot of the flaws of that time period and the lack of, agency so many of these women had over their lives, quite frankly. And so I think it was like trying to do that, but
the dad was like, someone said she could be Allstate, and I said if she was a boy, she'd be with the Yankees, and I'm like, yes. But like, he like recognized like she had like a singular talent, and yet like because of the restrictions, and it just kind of like watching that made me think, do women now have more opportunities when it comes to sports to be able to make a successful career than someone like Marla would have had? And that made me wonder, because I'm thinking about, like, obviously Caitlin Clark's in the news right now, and like so many of these other female athletes this summer from the Olympics and stuff, and big contracts and all these things. And I was wondering, do women now, or are we still facing the same kind of issues that many of them were in the 1940s? And it made me kind of think about that. I was wondering what everyone else thought.
I think that's a really great point, because it's making me particularly think about the Olympics and the women's rugby team, right? Who and how they do not have traditional, obviously, bodies, feminine bodies, or what are considered feminine, right? They're very strong bodies. They're very, what people would say are masculine bodies. And it's a misunderstanding of women, right? I mean, like, of the variety of bodies that women have, and what women look like and what women are capable of. It's just like, our historical tropes, where there's this perception or this concept of what we think they should be. And when we see them playing these sports, we realize that that is not really how they look. But then it gets controversial, right? Because I'm thinking of, what's her name? Iona or Alona, what's her name? Maurer, right? Who is
Ilona
incredibly
Maher.
muscular. Maher.
Ilona
Yeah,
Maher's
that's right.
my girl.
Right. And she was just on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And so I think there is still this, obviously there's progress. I mean, Title IX changes so many things, just having women be able to play sports in general. And if you look at how big women's sports have become, like women's soccer is the soccer for America. Like people don't really pay as much attention to men's soccer. So there has been this progress, but there still is this obsession with women's bodies, even in sports, that you saw in this Olympic year, right? Because of sports like rugby and that are deemed kind of
gymnastics. The gymnastics girls always having people commenting about their bodies.
Their bodies
too small, whatever it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw this thing once that I think it was on social media somewhere, that at a park somewhere, a little boy threw up and did like a 3-pointer, and he's like, "Ooh, Caitlin Clark!" And they said, what a moment then, that instead of saying, "Oh, LeBron James" or something, like they're saying now like a female sports player. And I was wondering, are we kind of moving, because they say several times this movie, like, women's sports, this is only because the men are overseas, it's the only reason why anybody would watch this. But now, I mean, like, I think the highlights of so many of the Olympics this summer, at least, were women's sports. I mean, the women's soccer, women's rugby, women's gymnastics, the women's track and field, like that.
Women carried that gold medal count. Yeah,
exactly. And like, if I could name so many of the female Olympians this summer from America, more than I could probably name many of the male ones. And I was wondering, does that signal a moment then that this movie is this kind of a signal light from the past, and something is different now, or is it really?
I think there's a little bit of both. And I say that because I think you see, even in the League of Their Own, how there is this expectation, oh, we don't have anything to watch, so they brought these women in. And by the end of it, you have people very intensely cheering for what has become a very competitive sport. So I think people don't even really understand what they enjoy sometimes.
So can we talk about the scene? And it's so fleeting in this movie that I almost forgot that it was in there until I saw the movie again. I'm like, oh yeah. Where the Black ladies are standing there and one of them throws the ball and
Yes.
they're thinking, "Oh wow, she threw the ball really well," and then they walk off.
It is fleeting, but it's
So
highlighting
fleeting.
what is considered women's, even there, right? We talk about women getting the right to vote in the 19th Amendment, but that's just white women. And so I feel like that kind of highlights the difference for women, that Black women are not involved in this. Yes, it is fleeting. But to give credit to Penny Marshall, talked about the Bechdel test and all that, she weaves this together in a very natural way. Even that moment where I, as a young person, knew what she was saying there. They don't get to play, but they're just as athletic, just as interested in sports, just as capable. Yeah, I remember that scene. And I can't believe we hadn't brought it up, but yes, because it is quick. Because Dottie shakes her hand, right? Because it's
Yeah,
such a hard
'cause she threw it so hard.
pass. She's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes.
We can hear you.
All right. I don't know what the hell's going on with my computer, but something. Anyways, what I wanted to say was there is an updated version of A League of Their Own, that was a series on Prime, that addresses some of the Black lady issues, and also some of the LGBT issues that are also missing in this film, because there have been documentaries about the couples that came out of this period of
League.
time when they were playing baseball together. So the Prime series, A League of Their Own, which was what was it, a couple of years ago, and it only went one season, but it does address both the Black women and the LGBT aspect of the All American Girls Professional Baseball League. So if anybody has a Prime subscription and a hankering to see more, you can definitely watch that. Also,
Karen, have you watched it specifically? Like, have you watched it?
Yes, I was given that assignment by Chloe a couple of summers ago, and
Would you personally recommend it as much as the movie?
no.
So I had to check.
Well, I mean, it goes. It's not historical, I would say, because it does cover LGBT aspects, but it isn't. It doesn't. It doesn't show the stigma that was still very much in place at the time. And so it does, and I get it, because it's supposed to be a comedy series, and not supposed to be so terribly heavy and all of that, but it does give you kind of the wrong impression that it was just like super chill to be you know hanging out in each other's rooms and stuff. And it was not. So I don't think that I would recommend that as much, and it isn't. I mean, I don't think it was as well put together. I think they were trying to, you know, put more information out there, but I still prefer the movie.
Well, I was gonna say, because like when we're talking about like stigma and everything like that, even when the movie comes out in 1992, I think Rosie O'Donnell did some sort of interview at one point that she talked about meeting some of the women who actually like played in reality on these baseball teams, and they would introduce their significant other as their roommate still in 1992.
And the really interesting thing is that Rosie O'Donnell wasn't out yet in 1992.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a mystery. Nobody knew that Rosie O'Donnell was gay at the time.
I mean, she sure did like play up an obsession with Tom Cruise to kind of hide it, didn't she?
Okay, but what straight woman is obsessed with Tom Cruise? That's the worst cover I could ever think of. He's so gross, but that's beside the point.
Another thing I want to bring up though is because there's some women I'm thinking of Shirley Baker. Do you remember they taught her how to read?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it shows some of the class dynamics, and it's Madonna teaching her to read. And I love how there's these different types of women, right? Obviously, Madonna's playing this very provocative woman. Um, but she's teaching her, and the awkward on the bus where she's reading like a pornographic kind of not little novel, and they're like, "What are you having her read?" And she says she's reading, right? That's what matters. But I like this dynamic of being a place where they kind of took care of each other. You talk about the friendship, but it's she's illiterate. She probably comes from this poor background, and I kind of like how it is still fleeting, like you talked about with the scene with the Black women. But you're getting aspects of these women's lives that are very different, regardless of what they're doing.
Well, what it reminded me of, which is this could be really weird. It weirdly reminded me for a moment of what was the movie that we did that was Red Tails or whatever. Oh my gosh.
Tuskegee Airmen?
Tuskegee Airmen. Because Tuskegee Airmen has all these like characters from different places, but we laughed that like we never quite connected with a lot of them. And the difference was this was all these different people from all these different places, and not a single line was wasted the entire movie. Every single line, you got to know a character a little bit more because she's May all the way, but she's also teaching someone how to read. And like you got these, I don't know, you felt.
And then when they say they're gonna cancel, she's like, I'm not going back to dancing. We're gonna keep playing baseball,
Yeah.
Because she had to survive. It kind of says that she had a darker past too.
That was like the biggest cheese moment when she's like, "What am I supposed to do? Go back to dancing? I'm not gonna do that." And then, but then, like a little bit later, whenever Doris's dad comes, and he's like, "You remember May?" And he's like, "Oh, it's good to see you, not doing that other stuff like he used to." Like, ooh. And he's like, "Dad, don't embarrass her," But it is like you can kind of see how women who are forced because of circumstance to do that to make a living are still kind of stigmatized and looked down upon. So I thought that was a great scene, and that's another one that like means more to me, I guess, nowadays.
Like I said, not a line was wasted in that film. Like I can't there's not a line that I can go, oh well, you could get rid of that scene or this scene. Like it all it was a very tight script.
I think I feel like Penny Marshall even like deals with the whole male gaze, right? Because I'm thinking obviously Madonna, but what's the blonde girl who plays on the team? Really blonde.
Oh, the one that was like a Miss Georgia.
Right? But even
but she's got that southern accent, and she's the one who sings.
Miss Georgia.
I can't remember her name.
But there's there's like categorizations of women. The women aren't doing that, right? But the men are. So she's kind of at the top tier of like how they think the women should look. Like, and that's the other side of it. The men bringing them in, and how the others don't kind of match up to that. Now because there's two sides of that, like within the female group, you don't see those kind of dynamics as much. Right? Again, May teaching her to read and them all like pulling together their skills to help each other. But there's a hierarchy from the male perspective.
And
who's
helping,
most feminine and who's most
Marla, like when they took Marla out to the suds bucket. And they, gave her a dress and put on some makeup, and then she,
got liquored up.
Yeah.
Found her a man.
But the interesting thing is, in this way, The League of Their Own really replicates a lot of the war movies that we discussed last year, because it's getting a lot of different individuals in a situation that they hadn't been before, all in a group, almost like in a la like what we've seen in Saving Private Ryan, where all these different individuals come together in this place of combat where they have a common mission together. And so in that way, we were able to see women acting in the way that we've seen so many men doing before in these scenes of combat and in these scenes of war. And I think that is what really gives us such interesting dynamics where we have all these women coming together in a place that we don't usually see them, doing something different and having to work together. And I think that that's why it's so powerful, because we don't often see women in places like that.
Well,
we see women pitted against each other, not working together.
Yeah, well, and so many of those films have the token woman, and that's it. Like, the one, she's the woman, that's her character. And this was like, no, there's lots of characterizations of women.
And they're multidimensional, right? Like Dottie's a married woman. She's an amazing baseball player. She's an amazing sister. They're multidimensional people.
And
who have lived.
Worker.
And very good at milking a cow.
Very good.
It's not that easy. If you've never milked a cow. I have.
So recently I saw this thing about how we are losing something watching movies because we don't have the DVD extras that we used to have. Now that we stream so much, we just watch the movie and that's it. Whereas back in the day, I don't know if students in here know, there were these things called DVDs, and a lot of times there were extras where they would interview the cast and interview the director, and people would talk about funny things. There'd be outtakes, and you would get to know more about the movie because of these extras. And now that everyone streams, that is not really a thing that people do anymore. And so I was wondering about that while watching this movie. Are we losing something, we think, without those, or are we okay without them?
I will say you lose something from the original source material, but with now there being such a big following online for like watching other people's reactions, and then you get things like, oh my gosh, I watched some movie, instead of watching the movie, I watched a vocal artist explain how there were problems with, of all things, it was like the Cinderella remake with, oh my gosh, Camilla, whatever, and pointed out all the mistakes that people were singing. And I was like, I would never have been able to understand those things because I might have been like, oh, this isn't the best singing, but I wouldn't have known what was it in. So I think there's something different, that we get different experts now, but that's almost more commentary. Whereas we are missing out on the direct, I guess, primary source. I don't know. Material.
Yeah, I think that's true. Although I never watched the DVD extras when I had the DVDs, so I'm the bad kid there. Sorry.
But we knew they were there. I don't know, like.
I will say
maybe it's related to the streaming in
with
general.
Commentary rather than actually Titanic, because Titanic with commentary is excellent.
And maybe it's related because Karen's brought this up before. Like with streaming, we've lost a sense of community with our films, right? Like, I've had students this semester bring this up to me where they were like, I watch old TV series and I can tell that they're talking to a community who all gets the joke, right? Like we're all in on the joke. And that doesn't exist now because we don't have those same shows.
I love that. I was wondering if maybe those DVD extras are on YouTube. Because I know when I finish watching a whole series or something, I will just go onto YouTube and I want to see what happened at the end of season 4 when the stars got together and they just talked about it, or, bloopers, or, that kind of thing. So, so, if you're missing that, not you, Sarah, but others, then that might be on YouTube. So anyway, just a thought, because you're so right. Like, then you got to go to Half Price Books and you got to go buy the DVD, and then you have to go find a TV that has a DVD player if you want to see that and all that. And you are not wrong. Those were just the fun parts of watching movies, for me at least. Me going on the, what is it, IMDb during a movie and being like, I know that actor, where have I seen them before? And I want to know the trivia and I want to know the whatever, so.
Thank goodness for Amazon Prime. You can pause it at any point and it tells you the actors.
Yes.
And where they're.
Yes, that's really helpful.
I was going to say
that
it really depends on your streaming, because there are, like on HBO Max, Max, when you stream some stuff on there, a lot of times there are related things. So if there is, like I was watching, I know you're going to find this crazy. Band of Brothers again. It shows the documentary version where they show the men, just the interviews with the actual guys later. That's offered underneath there. So it depends on what streaming, which thing you use to stream it. You can sometimes find those DVD extra stuff, even on the streamer. So
I know I'm about to like totally tell everybody how old I am. But do you remember on MTV? Yes, I actually said MTV. They used to have pop-up videos where they had all of this trivia pop
Loved
up when
them.
you're watching the
Mhm.
videos.
yeah,
I loved that.
Mhm.
They should have
I do
pop-up
too.
movies.
I feel
That
like
would be
that should
great.
have been a clue that we were nerds.
uh-huh.
You know what I mean, though? Because I was like,
Yeah.
please tell me everything about this video. Weird, quirky trivia attached to it. I loved it so much. I wish they still did it.
I wish they did it for everything, like commercials and, TV shows and even basketball games and things like that.
Like
I
an
wish they would
option
do
like
that.
That would
closed
be
captioning,
hilarious.
but you do your pop-ups.
Yes. So if you're watching an ad for like a drug company, pop up may cause death. That'd be great. To make it more entertaining.
What I wish, this is completely off topic, but what I mostly wish on the drug company ads that it would tell you what it's for. They're always like, ask your doctor if whatever is good for you, and I'm like, I don't know if I have what I would have that. So you know what? I'm not going to ask my doctor.
But that would be so much fun if they did pop-up movies. Like this would be a perfect movie for that. Just little trivia things that pop up about each one of these characters because they're so not just the characters are interesting, but I think the actors are really interesting
Yeah.
together. So that would be amazing if they could do
I
that.
agree. I was thinking of this
You
movie
mean-
though, Lowenstein, the guy who plays Lowenstein.
Yes.
His character arc is really interesting because he's the one that's dealing with the teams, and by the end of the movie, he's trying to figure out a way to keep it going. I
Yeah.
I like him as a character because I think he sees the value, right? Where
Well, and
others
he's
might
also the
not.
one who says, "Hey, you're telling them that men are coming home, they don't need to play baseball again. Are you going to tell the women who have been working in the factories that they're not needed either, that they're no longer valued either?" Like he brings that up, which is historically accurate. That's exactly what
Yeah.
happened. So I
Indeed.
love that character sort of represents what actually happened.
And that was a fun thing. So I'm helping in Cleburne, Texas, which is in Johnson County, down south. I am working with them on an exhibit that's opening next spring for the 80th anniversary at the end of World War II. And a lot of the different people are doing kind of different avenues of research. And one of mine is going to be about Consolidated Airplane Factory, which my great grandmother worked at. And yes, after World War II, she hung up that riveter and went back home to raise her 3 kids. So I actually thought of that. And it was an interesting connection between like watching the movie and thinking about like our own research and our own classes and what we're teaching and what we're like doing with our own service and everything. So yeah, it was interesting because yes, like indeed she did. Where these women, many of them got to keep playing baseball. She went back home for her 3 kids. So there you go.
Hey, Chloe. Didn't T. Ferg write that book?
Oh yeah.
About Consolidated? Oh dear.
I believe so.
Oh boy, I guess I should look that up then. But yes, I just found out because we're working on Cleburne, and that kept popping up as Cleburne women are going, and I knew my granny worked, and so I actually texted my great aunt, and I was like, "Which one did she work at?" And she's like, "Consolidated," and I was like, "Oh boy." So I will perhaps reach out to Terry and see what he was able to find out because that would be interesting for that.
Yeah, he might have some information for you.
In the chat here, do you see Joshua added a little trivia? He said that I just went like Lori Petty had to audition 7 times to get the role as Kit Keller, and that Gina Davis basically only had to show she could throw a ball. To be fair, Gina Davis was already a really big actress at that time, so they're not really going to. But in defense of Lori Petty, because I've loved a lot of films that Lori Petty is in, I'm glad they gave it to her because I think she nails Kit, and I don't know that anyone else would have captured that character as well as she did. And the dynamic between her and Gina Davis was awesome. Yeah.
I want to point out that initially Gina Davis's character was supposed to be Deborah Winger. But Deborah Winger dropped out because Madonna was hired. So I don't know what the tea is between Madonna and Deborah Winger, but it was enough that Deborah Winger was like, I'm out. And so they needed a big name to replace Deborah Winger. And that's why all she had to do was competently throw a baseball, I think, because they needed a name. Yeah. Yeah.
To draw people in.
This was 92.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what would Deborah Winger have done to make her a big draw. The Officer and a Gentleman, but that
Officer
was
and a Gentleman. How about Urban Cowboy?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that was
Urban
it.
Cowboy.
I mean, we can
Terms
still
of
remember
Entertainment.
that, like what, how many years later now? So,
yeah.
and I'm not sure I
They
ever
get
watched that movie.
I think an Officer and a Gentleman and Urban Cowboy was, like
two
put
biggest.
her on the front of everybody's list.
You didn't
right
mention
then.
Point Break when you talked about Lori Petty. If
I did
anybody's
not,
ever seen
because-
Point Break with Keanu and
yeah.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did not. I was trying to figure out what to say about a lot of these folks.
I know it's hard. Yeah. No, it's hard.
And the list was getting long in that one. And I didn't even mention Taya Leone, who was the first baseman of the racing team. Taya Leone. She's very, very young in that movie. This movie, right? And also then the pitcher before they traded for Kit was Janet Jones, who is the wife of Wayne Gretzky. And in Haley's favorite movie.
Gymnastics movie, American Anthem.
Yeah.
That no one has seen.
So,
except Karen.
So I know that this is a wonderful movie about women, but can we just talk about the brilliance of Tom Hanks for just like 2 minutes?
I think
because,
so.
Oh my gosh, he's brilliant. And this is before Philadelphia came out. This is before Forrest Gump came out. And so we get to see, I think, a little bit of that dramatic acting. He's still funny. He's still Tom Hanks, but just a little bit more of an edge that we start to see with this character in particular. So just, he's amazing. I just love him. I just want to say that.
I think this is like his bridge from being, a comedy, primarily comedic actor to acting in some serious stuff. This was the bridge. He was both funny and serious. And so, yeah, it's greatness.
Well, and it's hard to play kind of a jerk and still have the audience endear you, like be endeared to you kind of thing at the beginning of the film. And then he does so well with being realistic by the end when he's like trying not to yell at her and like literally has the hands like, because we watched that and my husband's like, man, I've had that exact expression with sometimes our kids. Like,
I would like you to work on that. Y'all.
I mean, we've all felt that way before. That.
Well, and his character arc too. I mean, he starts out. I mean, he's an alcoholic and sort of a has-been when it comes to baseball. He had this really great thing that he did. Nobody remembers him really for it, and really begins to embrace the role, like sees the importance of being the manager for these women. Really begins to see value in that. So he has this whole character movement too. So
like I love it when he has Dottie basically coaching. Right? She's doing she's coaching because he's a drunk. And the women call him out. I love that too, where they're just like, we're tired of this. Like that's, like holding him to account. It's a great dynamic.
Because they take themselves seriously and he's not taking them seriously. And they're like, okay, we're going to just do it ourselves then. But the tension between Tom Hanks and Gina Davis. Woo! I felt it more in this time, maybe as an adult. I was like, there was some David. I think maybe that's one of the reasons why Dottie runs away as soon as her husband comes back, because she's getting a little too close to sobered up Jimmy.
Yeah. I'd agree, honestly. Because I wouldn't bank her husband. I'm only thinking of the actor's name. I can't think of the character's name, but
Bill Pullman. It wouldn't be the first time a woman has left Bill Pullman for Tom Hanks in a movie.
Because it is awkward, right? Tom Hanks doesn't know how to even interact with him when he shows up. Bill Pullman has no clue, right? He's just like, got injured, coming back home. But
well, I'm a big fan.
As the watcher, you definitely can see that obviously nothing happened, but there is a dynamic where.
Yeah. And I like the idea. I mean, we kind of see as well with these women that when they're playing baseball with one another, it really kind of instills a sense of confidence in them because they did call out Tom Hanks. But you see glimpses where they're not necessarily willing to do that in their personal lives. Like the whole reason Stillwell has to follow his mom is because her jerk husband said, I'm not taking care of him anymore. So she takes him with him.
He's too busy looking at the want ads.
Yes. Yes.
And she realized she's in basically an emotionally, mentally abusive marriage. And she might not have realized that till she meets these other women. There's a conscious raising there that is.
And Rosie O'Donnell's character throws the picture out of this guy who she says, oh, well, I'm only with him because, he's the only one who's looked at me. And she's like, forget it. And, throws the picture out. So, yeah, I like that there's this sense of confidence building when they're with these other women. They feel stronger when they're together and can support one another. Which is a great lesson.
And then the bitter end of the movie. You guys, I'm assuming, already talked about the fact that Kit was out because she never touched home plate.
Yes. I believe Haley brought that up.
I mentioned it. That even if she dropped it, Kit's still out.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's a theme in women's sports is that their officials are always terrible because they get the bottom of the heap for officiating. So you see it in soccer, you see it in women's basketball, you see it all over the sports arena.
So in other words, that was a conscious decision to be historically accurate?
Sure. Let's say it was.
I told Karen, yes, Kit missed home plate, but I still do think that Dottie dropped it on
She
purpose.
dropped it. Yeah. For sure. And as I said in the chat when I was having internet trouble, the look on her face when she stood there with Tom Hanks looking over at Kit celebrating, the look on her face, that soft look on her face is like, oh yeah, she did it on purpose. There's no question in my mind. And did it make me mad because I think Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna deserve to win just as much as Kit did, but she got to do things for your sisters. It makes me mad
because I don't think you should lose on purpose. like it's just a fundamental rule of life and sports.
And I know maybe the only part of that movie that I hated.
Mm-hmm.
It was maybe the only part of the movie that I disliked. It should have been, I don't know, but then it wouldn't have been that sisterly moment. So I don't know. Maybe it was meant to be. Who knows?
But Karen doesn't let even her nephews win. She's the kind that beats kids also because it's a good lesson.
I don't beat children.
Not beat children. Beat them at a sport. Beat them at a sport. Because
I
you got to
don't
learn
want
how to
them
beat
win.
her,
I
right?
don't- yeah.
That's how you get good.
Yeah. It means more to them than whenever they can win. And it's, and I'm sure that any day now they'll be able to win. Which is funnier if you know that my nephews are like in their 30s and 40s. So, just kidding. But the bitter end, where we're watching the old ladies play baseball. That is another place where it's Madonna's "This Used to Be My Playground" playing in the background, and that is another place that just sends me into sobbing, heaving messes. It's gosh.
Well, I love how Dottie isn't even sure she should go.
Yeah. And the interplay, like whenever that woman is like arguing with the umpire and all of that, it's just so good and wholesome and and also completely unrealistic, because there's no way those women would not be like
hurting.
Street butter. It's not happening. And none of them are sliding. I'm sorry. None of them. You don't slide over age 50. You just do not. It's an unwritten rule. No sliding over 50. But it is very touching. It's a wonderful film. I think I even like the part, and I don't know. Have any of you been to Cooperstown, to the Hall of Fame? No? Yeah, me either. Football Hall of Fame, yes. Baseball, haven't made it there yet, but someday. And to see that display would be amazing, to honor those women. Not those women, but the actual women. And yeah. So we are approaching the end of time. I think it's possible that Chloe might be frozen this time. She hasn't blinked in a while. But that's how we can tell. You gotta blink every once in a while. But anyway, I have posted in the chat the form for attendance. So if you're here for extra credit, please fill that out. I also would like to see if I can.
Oops. I think you're frozen again.
Up on Northeast Campus. Me.
Let's try.
Bear with us as we deal with technical issues, everyone.
Teams is letting us down.
Okay.
Hey, Chloe's back.
No, I think it's more my internet, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Anyway, but what I was going to say is we have an event coming up on 9/11, where we are going to have a panel discussion about the events of 9/11. If you are on Northeast Campus, please do join us for that. If Chloe or someone else would like to post the link to the future events page, that would be awesome. But
I will get it in the chat, and also we'll be doing a Constitution Day online for all you streamers out there, and that will be on that Google site as well.
Yeah, and before Constitution Day, we will be back here for another exciting movie discussion for Remember the Titans, because that is our next one. So we are going from baseball to football because it is that time of year. We are moving on from the tragedy that has been this baseball season to the hopefulness of the NFL season. So join us on the 20th. No, hang on. I know this. The 13th, Friday the 13th, for Remember the Titans. That should be really exciting. Denzel. Yep. And until
I'm
then.
working on getting the link.
Okay.
Going as
Sorry about
fast as I
that.
can.
I'm
Sorry
trying.
about
I'm getting it in there.
Oh, you're getting it in there? Or racing?
Samantha has to look through like her 48 windows that are open.
I feel like I
Hey.
need to. I feel like I need to send to everyone the list and of my links that I have for every one of these, so that if something terrible happens, we all have it, and someone can carry
Or
on.
you can just go to the Google site that I posted, and all of them are there.
I mean, that's the site I was talking about. But anyway, so thanks for joining us. A League of Their Own. Have your friends watch it. Watch it again. It's a great movie. It doesn't make you sad and depressed, and you know, feel good.
But you will cry.
Feeling good. But you will cry. But they're happy tears. They're happy tears. So anyway, thanks for joining us, and Chloe can stop the recording.
Yes, be well, make wise decisions. Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Crying.
Bye.
Bye.